Welcome everyone to another episode of Slasher Scotty. I am your host, Scotty McCoy, and boy, do I have a surprise for all of you. I have on Zoom with me right now Jessica Hottman, and she played Tina Shepard from the year of 1989 in Roseblood, a Friday the 13th fan film. Hey Jessica, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. I'm so glad to have you on. I previously had I butcher his name all the time. He played Duke. I'll just say Q. You don't want to call him
You
Q.
work. You
Yep,
works.
yep. I had him on. I believe it was last week, if I'm not mistaken. And I had Peter Anthony, who directed and played General Brackbauer in the movie. I had him on, and of course, I had Lar Park Lincoln on as well to discuss it. And I had Terry Kaiser, but had him before the whole Roseblood thing came about. But now I finally have you on. You had a very important and intricate part of the film, and I'm sure it wasn't as easy because you're already playing an iconic character.
That is very, very true.
So the first question I got for you is, how did you get your start into acting?
Yeah, I'm pretty new. I'm pretty green in the world of acting. I did some acting very casually as a kid. I'm from Nebraska originally,
Mhm.
so just did some small musicals and plays
Right.
and that sort of a thing. But I really didn't pursue acting seriously until like right before COVID and the pandemic hit. So
Mhm.
I moved out to the East Coast. I'm like right outside of New York City,
Mhm.
and I mainly was doing music, but I wanted to also dabble in acting.
Yeah.
So I started taking the train into the city, getting
Mhm.
on set, getting on productions. But Roseblood is really my first major role where I've had to
Mhm.
learn lines and a full character and dive in. And so it was a bit intimidating because it wasn't just me playing the role the way I wanted to. I also had to pay respect to what had already been done.
Yeah.
And Lar's just an amazing actress. And so, yeah, it was pretty
Yeah.
much a deep dive in.
Right. So did you happen to watch Friday the 13th Part 7 before doing the film?
I did right after I got the part. Um, it's funny. I like wasn't really allowed to watch a lot of horror movies growing up,
Hmm.
so I started dabbling into the horror film world later in life.
Hmm.
And my boyfriend's a VHS collector, so he was just
Nice.
kind of having me go through all the basics. And this was one that I had not seen.
Hmm.
So when I got the call and I officially got the role for Roseblood, I was like, okay, I have to go and watch this film and
Nice.
study it.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I
Yeah.
love 80s horror. There's something
Hmm.
about that time period. You have
Hmm.
practical effects, you have just I don't know, it's a lot of fun, and the way that things were filmed has a special
Yeah.
quality to it.
Yeah.
So what a great film. What a great thing to be a part of.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know John Carl Buechler was very upset with how his special effects in that film was really butchered down, which is really sad because if you watch the uncut versions, they have like very grainy versions of it on YouTube. And they were so good. And they could have, if
Yeah,
they just kept that in, it would have been amazing.
I know.
Yeah, and I saw actually my first ever horror movie was Friday the 13th Part 7.
Cool.
It
Wow.
has it's always been nostalgic in my heart. Like just it's always got this special place there because it's the first movie that got me into horror. And
Yeah.
I remember watching it, and what got me into wanting to see that regardless of what it was because of the box art on the VHS tape back, and I got it
Cool.
probably mid 90s because I was like 6 or 7 years old at the time. And it's funny because I'm friends with Lar, and when I first told her about me watching the movie at 6 years old, she's like, "Scotty, how could you watch that at 6 years old? I would never
No.
let my kids watch it that young." I'm like,
Lars like my parents. Yeah.
"Yep,
Like, no, we're not going there.
yep,
But yeah.
absolutely." So, how did you happen to land the role of Tina in Roseblood?
Yeah. So I was trying to get, into the world of acting, like I said. So I was using casting apps and I still use them.
Mhm.
And it was kind of right after the holiday season. And I went on to one of my casting apps and saw that they had a featured role reprising the character of Tina Shepard. And I guess it would have been Peter had attached a picture of Lar from the 80s. And I
Mhm.
clicked on it and I was like, my hair is obviously much darker. This is my kind of
Mhm.
natural color here. And it was completely dark. But I
Yeah.
looked at her eyes and I was like, I feel like there's something similar in our eyes, and
Mhm.
I feel like I have a chance at this. And so I sent in an audition tape. and I didn't even have any fancy lighting or anything like that. I just sent the audition in, and I think like a day later, Peter got back to me and was like, "Hey, we really like you for this role. Would you be willing to cut your hair, or not, sorry, dye your hair, possibly cut your hair? We weren't sure." And I said yes. And then he's like, "Great, let's jump on a Zoom call." So we jumped onto a Zoom call, and I had better lighting. And when he saw my eyes, he's like, "Oh, yeah, okay."
Nice,
Got the
nice.
role.
Nice.
So
Yeah. And when
here
I
we are.
first saw that this movie's coming out, I mean, I obviously told Peter this part, that with Terry Kaiser bringing back Dr. Cruz, that kind of scared me, because I'm thinking, I'm hoping they didn't retcon his death. Like, I was hoping that they kept it true to his, like, that he was still dead. The way they did it was brilliantly. And the other reservation I had was doing the major flashback scenes, like having, somebody portray Tina, Lar, it's going to be a big step, and you need the right person for that role. Like, you can't just hire any Tom, Dick, and Harry to do this part. Like, you have to have the right person that can do the movements, the facial expressions, can portray Tina, but also portray her at a very emotional state, because she's already traumatized. And I'm going to say, you were the perfect Tina.
Thank you. That means so much to me. That's all I can ask for. And I know the reviews are in. Some people don't feel that way. Some people do.
Yeah.
And that means a lot. The people that connect and see it that way. And I think the cool thing with this film is it was all so fast. Like, I got the role. I flew out to Seattle like 2 weeks later. We filmed it in 8 days. So it was just cool that Peter really had a vision. And once all the pieces were there, it just kind of, it flowed. It went. And
and that's the thing with reviews. You're going to get a lot of bad reviews, no matter no matter what movie you do. You're going to get the bad and you're going to get the good. When you're playing a character like a Tina Shepard, you're going to get people that are diehard Friday the 13th and Lar Park Lincoln fans. And if anybody tries to do a part that she did, even if it's, a flashback scene and a year later, like, they're going to get on you, and that's just the way it is. And I'm sure Q might feel the same way. They might have people going after him because he played Creighton Duke from Jason Goes to Hell. So, like, you're going to get that. And unfortunately, that's the way it is. But I mean, I thought personally you did a great job. And I mean, you had big shoes to fill, and you filled it.
Well, thank you. That really means a lot. And I was kind of nervous about that aspect of it, just coming into something where the precedent had been set. But I talked to Jason Brooks on set, who played Jason, and he said, "Hey, I'm in the same boat. Every little movement I do is like under magnifying glass." And we just kind of encouraged each other, and he gave me some good advice there to just, be myself, and to do the best I can, but to also bring a little bit of me into the role. And it was a lot of fun.
Absolutely, yeah. And he, like you said, Jason Brooks is playing Jason. It's not like he's just playing a random Jason in a fan film. He's playing Kane Hodder's version of Jason. That's really big shoes to fill. You have to really nail down Kane Hodder's version of Jason.
Physically huge, and actually mentally huge too.
Yeah, absolutely. So the big question in the room here is, how did you make your version of Tina Shepard different from the version everyone knows from Part 7, played by Lar Park Lincoln?
I mean, I tried to really stay as true to the character as I could, but I really didn't force, I don't know, I didn't really force it. I tried to study it a lot, and then sort of let that go and just let myself react how I would, but also how Tina would. So there's kind of this melding of me and of her, and trying to find that middle ground. And Lar gave me some really good advice that, Tina tells the story through her eyes. So a lot of it is right here, a lot of the character and the emotion. So I just tried to picture myself like I was her, and then just kind of let it come out, like, especially right here.
Yeah, so, absolutely. And absolutely. And it's not like you're playing Part 7's Tina. You're portraying a Tina that is traumatized now. Like, she went through, her mother was killed, her doctor was killed, all these people are killed, and like, she dealt with fighting Jason, and now this is the aftermath a year later. So this is what's happening. So yeah, you're dealing with a lot of trauma, and you have to portray the character of Tina, but also a traumatized version of her.
Yeah. I was like super emotional through, trying to become the character, and then even being on set. And when I left, I just realized, oh, I don't have to be this way anymore. But it
Mhm.
was hard to kind of come off of that. And I
Right.
actually had another role that I was preparing for, but thankfully that was another role where I'm very emotional. So I kind of
Yeah.
let some of that drift in.
Nice.
But it was like coming down from a high a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right. So, was there any specific type of preparations you did to make your version of Tina work? Like, I know, for example, when I interviewed Lar Park Lincoln, she met with, I guess psychics or people
Yeah.
that dealt with telekinesis, so she can kind of understand how to, do the movements with her body and her eyes and her face and all that. Like, did you do anything like that to prepare, or what did you do to prepare?
Yeah, I did a lot of different things. So
Okay.
obviously, I ran the lines a bunch. My
Mhm.
boyfriend was great. He read to me so I could learn as much as
Right.
possible
Yeah.
before flying out to Seattle. I watched the film. I tried to study Lar and just her movements
Mhm.
and her emotion and
Yeah.
all of that. And then I would do my lines in front of either a mirror or I'd record myself on my phone and then
Mm-hmm.
just kind of watch it back and see like
Yeah.
where I needed to improve or change things.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also just thought about other characters that to me had a similar emotionalness to them. So, like one of the characters that I was sort of using on the periphery was Winona Ryder in Stranger Things, how she's
Okay.
kind of very frantic and she's
Yeah.
very motherly towards her
Mm-hmm.
kid. And that's kind of how I had to be with Rose. She was like my
Mm-hmm.
sister, but I was almost like an
Right.
older figure for her. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of tying in a lot of things. But then, like I said, once I got onto set, I really tried to just sort of let that go and be in the moment. And that
Nice.
was pretty much my preparation.
Nice. And I know with Friday the 13th part 7, that was kind of based off of Jason versus Carrie, where Tina was Carrie. So did you happen to dive into any Stephen King's version of Carrie, either the reboot or the 70s or 80s version of it?
Yeah, well, I had actually just like before getting the role, had just watched Carrie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny that that tie-in was there because when I was watching part 7 for the first time, I was thinking to myself, this really reminds me of Carrie. And then another preparation I did was just reading a lot about the film and that sort of a
Mm-hmm.
thing. And I read that that was a
Mm-hmm.
tie-in
Yep.
and was like, okay, cool. I'll just
Nice.
use that film that I just watched and try to like bring that in
Yeah.
as well. And yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. So you said you spoke to Lar Park Lincoln. I guess she kind of helped you, mentioning the eyes and everything. Have you happened to meet her at all on set? And if so, how was it? How was that experience like?
Yeah, seeing her on set was so cool. So we had had a few FaceTimes and that sort of a
Mhm.
thing beforehand. And she really also helped me. Another preparation piece was just, she told me to always find, sort of the story arc within each scene and
Mhm.
finding the reason behind the character. So
Right.
that was really helpful. She gave me just a ton of pointers, just even being a female in
Yeah.
the business of acting.
Yeah.
So we kind of started to build a bond. And then when I got onto set my very first day, I was doing my scene where it's Dr. Sykes and I,
Mhm.
and that was kind of the whole first half of the day. So partway through, I catch wind that Lar's going to be there. She's coming
Nice.
to set. No one really knew exactly when she was going to arrive.
Mhm.
And I was in the room at one point and I did a scene and I'm like, oh, I think that felt good. And we're like, all right, we're moving on. And then Peter comes in and said, hey, Lar's actually here. She wants to meet you. So I came out of
Nice.
the room and she just came up and gave me a huge hug and
Nice.
said, wow, this looks fabulous. You're doing great. It looks so awesome. And was just very kind. And that was super cool. And then
Yeah.
the next day, I got to come back to set for a little bit to see her and Terry Kaiser doing their scene.
Nice.
And that was like goosebumps, chills. I was in the other room and I could just hear them doing the scene. And then I would kind of come out and watch the little monitor. And all of us are just standing there like, oh my gosh, this is so
That's
cool.
awesome. That's awesome.
And it just, I think seeing the two of them together really just brought the level of everything up.
Yeah.
Like it just, everybody was psyched. It was like, all right, this is happening.
Absolutely. And Terry Kaiser, brilliant actor. Just, I mean,
So
you
good.
got to be a good actor if you're actually doing pretty much an entire movie as a dead guy.
I
We can
know,
have
right?
any just to
That's
make a
not a
movie.
thing.
Yes, exactly. Great, great guy. And obviously, this movie wouldn't have been done without Peter Anthony. I mean, director, writer, obviously General Brackbauer in the film, producer, among many other talents and trades for this film.
Yeah.
Like without him, there wouldn't be no Roseblood. So how was he as a director, and what was it like, working with him?
Yeah, Peter is just, he's awesome. He's the type of person that you need on a film set to make everything happen. And like you said, he's multi-talented. He was doing so much. Like,
Mhm.
I don't even know how he slept through the whole thing because he had written this whole script. He brought everyone in.
Yeah.
He was directing. He was doing stuff with the set design. He was just
Mhm.
making sure every little detail was
Mhm.
there. All the Easter eggs were him. And so just, he's such a passionate person. And that
Mhm.
really came out on set. It really was a family environment.
Yeah.
And he's just feisty. He's a fireball. He keeps everyone motivated. We had
Yeah.
some really, really long days where we filmed
Yeah.
for 20 hours plus,
Yeah.
and he just had everyone going and the
Yep.
energy was strong. So
Yep. And
um
then
not saying
yeah,
nothing about him.
absolutely. And any like usually any like most acting sets, like when you're on set and everything, you could film pretty much up to 16 hours, but those are on like, couple month shoots. You only had 8 days. Like you filmed this movie in 8 days
It
and
was,
20
yeah.
plus hours. That's intense.
Yeah.
That's
And
intense.
after multiple days of filming, and like the film
Mhm.
crew, they would stay up and watch dailies. So
Yep.
they were just all kinds of sort of
Mhm.
crazy and disoriented at the end of it. But I think
Yeah.
that that was a good thing. It brought a
Yeah.
certain craziness to the end of the
Yeah.
film, even.
And then when you see the final product and the movie put together and everything, it's like we made this movie. All those
Yeah.
hours, all the preparation, all the studying, all the memorization, everything that we did to make this movie got made and got done, and it was a success. I enjoyed it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's
Of
super
course.
cool to see it all put together. I didn't
Yeah.
see, well, I saw, obviously the trailers, but I
Right.
didn't get to see the film until we had the physical premiere. And
Yes.
it was a convention ahead of time, and
Yeah.
then the film was the last part of it. So I'm talking
Mhm.
with people, we're chatting, we're talking about the role, and all of a sudden we're watching the film at the end, and I'm thinking to myself, I haven't even seen this yet. I have no
Right.
idea what to expect. And
Mhm.
it was just so cool and
Yeah.
surreal that, like we said, in 8 days, this all
Yeah.
came together.
Absolutely, and it's funny because I was in DC with my boyfriend. We were vacationing and all that, and
Yeah.
it was the day we were gonna leave, and it was like a blizzard, and we were already packed up and everything. And I'm like, well, we have about an hour till we got to get the Uber back to the train station. So I'm just gonna I'm gonna put a fan film on. I'm like, you know what? I want to watch Rosebud. I didn't see that in a while, so I watched the first half of it. And I set up an interview with Peter Anthony, I believe, for the next day too. So I watched the first half of it, and then we had to leave. So I'm like, okay, well, I had like half an hour left or whatever I have to watch, and I'm like, well, I'll watch it when I get back home. And we got to the train station. Our train was delayed for about 3 hours, and it still didn't arrive. There was like a tree on the tracks or whatever.
Oh
And
boy.
yeah, it was crazy. And I ended up paying like another Uber to go from DC back to Maryland. It was like over $100. It was crazy, and I'm like, I can't
Yeah.
wait to get home. I want to see the rest of this movie already. And I
Yeah.
finally got to watch the end of it. And I finally messaged Peter back. I'm like, I finally got to see the end of it. And he's like, what'd you think? I'm like, awesome. It was great. It was really good. And I'm so glad that you guys had the proper premiere, because we know with COVID going around and everything, I'm glad you guys got to get this film made. You got to do the premiere, because I know you even mentioned that you just got into acting right before COVID. And what a
Yeah.
horrible time to get in when everything's
I
shutting
know,
down.
right? Like I move out to the East Coast, I'm like diving into this whole thing, and then COVID hits, and it's like,
Yeah.
maybe I'm not supposed to do this. Maybe this is a sign, but I'm glad
Yeah.
that it pressed on and it
Yeah.
happened.
I'm really glad too, because I know I mean, a lot of stuff got delayed, and I'm glad that productions, especially for this movie and others, that they were able to get back on their feet, and they were able to get done and made, because a lot of productions didn't make movies because they never got back to that balance.
Yeah, there was
Yeah.
stuff that I did that I don't know if it'll ever come
Yeah.
out because it just was
Hmm.
halfway through, and then COVID hit, and
Yeah.
then the funds went away or
Yep.
people changed.
Yep.
So yeah, we're really
Yeah.
lucky that it all
Yep.
happened.
Absolutely. So, what was the most challenging part in bringing your version of Tina alive?
And the most challenging part, um, I would just say, Tina's a very intense character. She
Hmm.
has so much emotion in her. She
Yeah.
has a lot of baggage in her life. And it was hard to have varying levels of intensity. So it's
Yeah.
like you can't just be 100% and then
Hmm.
0%. There has to be all these levels, and she has to build and then kind of come
Hmm.
back down and then
Yeah.
build. And filming out of order, which is how most things are filmed, you might be starting at a point where you're here and then having to backtrack and have less intensity and then go
Yeah.
all the way up and then come back down. So just knowing the level of intensity
Yeah.
and keeping it interesting, I think was the
Hmm.
most challenging part.
Yeah, and I don't know if you're a method actor or not, but I know if you're a method actor and you're doing this role, that must be very emotionally draining.
Honestly, it's like I don't even know if I'm a method actor, but I feel like I was a method actor in some
Right.
way because I was so tired. I had a migraine the day we left
Oh,
because
yeah.
I had cried, I had screamed, I had been,
Yeah.
fighting with people.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But
it was method whether or not I wanted it to be.
right, and it showed that, and you actually made it like having that migraine, it like showed that what you did worked, like you did what you needed to do for the scene, because obviously if it with that, and getting the migraine, it shows that I did the emotional part of it, I did the crying, I did the screaming, and it all paid off, granted
Yeah,
with the migraine, but it shows that I did my job, and that's what you
yeah.
that's like a kudos.
That's like my body saying, "Yep,
You did
you
it.
did this."
Absolutely. So when you saw the original version of the script, like what were your initial thoughts on it?
Yeah, like I said, it was such a whirlwind, but I was so impressed because before I even read the script, I watched part 7 and then freshly with that in my mind, read the entire script
Hmm.
and just seeing all of the connections that Peter
Yeah.
had put into the script was so cool and something I really appreciated about it. And I know that this is a big criticism of it is Jason doesn't come until the end, like the
Yeah.
very final
Yeah.
thing. But I think that that was so smart and so different.
Yeah.
And I love that there's the build up and you're just, you're waiting for it. You almost forget that it's
Mhm.
coming and then it happens. I thought that was
Yeah.
really something innovative in the script. So, like I
Absolutely.
said, Peter did a great job with it.
Absolutely. And any fan, I could speak this from a fan's point of view, any fan that watches it sees all the Easter eggs, just like right from the beginning, seeing Lar Park Lincoln there and having
Yeah.
Hodder, hospital or whatever it was, like,
Yeah.
Hodder, Kane Hodder, and, then having the wall of Jason where there's the tree trimming saw he killed Dr. Cruz with, and the brush hook he killed Amanda Shepard with, and,
Yeah.
the axe that he killed Melissa with. Like he had all the instruments there too. It's like these are everything that he pretty much used on top of other elements. And then to throw in Rose, who was a totally out, different character. She's not in
Right.
Friday the 13th. And then the fact that Michael Myers shows up, which is pretty brilliant,
Yeah.
because the evil child that they mention of being Rose really is the manifestation or the embodiment of evil of AKA the evil one himself, Michael Myers.
Yeah.
So
It's so
yeah.
cool how it all ties in. And,
Yeah.
even with the Michael thing, it's funny because a lot of us didn't have that epiphany until
Mhm.
we did the scene with the knife coming through the door, which
Yeah.
was a very fun scene to film. It was a little scary because I was worried the knife was actually gonna hit me in the face. But it was during that filming that a lot of us realized, oh, the
Yeah.
knife, oh, ah, and it was like it all just
Yeah.
even came together mentally there. So yeah, I love that Peter put, some easy to grab Easter eggs
Yeah.
and then some things that are really,
Yeah.
even further down deeper. There's
Yeah.
just so much
Yeah.
worked into the film.
Absolutely. It really paid off. And like even with Creighton Duke, he has Creighton Duke, and you're thinking, why is Creighton Duke here? But then at the end, he's locked in that room or whatever, and he sees Julian get killed, and he's like, "I'm gonna get you, Jason. I'm gonna get you. You won't. I won't forget you or
Yeah.
whatever." And it ties into why he's hunting down Jason, and Jason goes to hell, which they never really established in that film to begin with. So
Yeah.
it tied that loose end together, and it was beautifully done,
Yeah.
brilliantly written. It really was. So more generically, this is a
Yeah.
question I ask pretty much all of my guests because I like to get their insights. Everybody's insights are a lot different, and I like hearing the different stories about it. But what was the best part about filming Roseblood, and what was the worst?
The best part about filming Roseblood was the fact that every person, I've worked on a lot of these major sets, been
Hmm.
on things for Netflix or Amazon or just, these bigger productions. And granted, I was not a main role in them. So I
Hmm.
felt more like an outsider. Everybody's kind of separate and it all comes together, but everybody's kind of doing their own thing.
Hmm.
With Roseblood, it's like every person there was part of this
Yeah.
family and was so passionate, and so many of the people there are just true fans of
Hmm.
the Friday the 13th franchise. So the excitement the whole time was my
Yeah.
favorite part. Every kill, people are screaming, we're laughing, we're looking back, we're taking pictures. It
Hmm.
was just like, it was so cool to be in the moment of all of it. The excitement was really my favorite part, and just the
Hmm.
family aspect. Um, Trying to think of like my least favorite or like, uh, whew. I was very tired by the end of it, which I mentioned. I think maybe my least favorite part was that because I was kind of trying to stay in character when I was
Hmm.
on set, it's like I couldn't let myself get too excited or too out of it. I sort of had to be, mentally drained to get
Hmm.
myself to a point.
Yeah.
And I almost wish that like I could have done that and then we could just do it all again and I could just be a mouse in the
Right.
corner and just hanging out and not
Right.
have to be mentally drained the whole time.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know if that
Yeah.
makes sense,
It
but
makes sense. Yeah, it does. So the last question I have for you, regarding the film itself, and then I have one more after that, is so you mentioned obviously you met Lar Park Lincoln, and you were on set with her and Terry Kaiser. Now, have you met Terry Kaiser, and did you happen to meet Kevin Spiritus?
I have met both of them, and
Nice.
I talked to Terry when we were on set, and it's cool because he went to high school in
Mhm.
Omaha, Nebraska, which is where I'm from originally.
Nice.
So we chatted about that briefly, and then I saw him again at the premiere, and we had a nice
Nice.
conversation.
That's awesome.
And then I also got to meet Kevin at the premiere, and we
Okay.
also had a very nice conversation. So
Mhm.
now I have
Nice.
met them all, which is really cool.
That is awesome. I know I'm a big Days of Our Lives fan, and
Yeah.
Kevin plays obviously Chloe's dad, Craig Wesley, in that, and he's
Mhm.
actually coming back. I think he's on. I don't know if he's on today's episode, but I think he returns this week. But
Really?
that's
Oh,
really
that's so
exciting. I'm
cool.
really excited to see him come back on the screen because he hasn't been on Days for a number of years. So it's
Yeah.
gonna be exciting to see him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
making all kinds of returns.
Absolutely. So the last question I do have for you, do you have any projects or anything at all, social media, websites, music, anything at all that you would like to promote to the listening and viewing audience?
Yeah, well, I'll start with my band that I play in. So,
Mhm.
if you watch the film, the song that comes in at the end credits is
Mhm.
actually from my band Giveth.
Nice.
And it's my boyfriend and I, and we have some bandmates that play with us. But our band is called Giveth,
Mhm.
Giveth,
Okay.
and it's a dark industrial cinematic group.
Nice.
And we put out an album in 2021 in October, and we
Hmm.
have more music coming out this year and a bunch of videos. And also, we're flying to Seattle next month with a
Hmm.
bunch of the film crew from Roseblood to film a music
Nice.
video for the
Nice.
song New Blood. So that's super cool and exciting. And if you
Mhm.
purchase one of the Blu-ray DVDs, you can actually get exclusive access to the New
Nice.
Blood music video. So
Nice.
that's all going down. We are on social media. It's just at Gibbeth Music, and we're on
Mhm.
Spotify and Apple Music and all of
Nice.
that. And then I do have another short film coming out
Yeah.
called Stranger in the Room, and I
Mhm.
have not seen that yet, but I know it's running some of the festival circuits right now, and hopefully will be available soon.
Nice.
But if you just follow my social media, Jessica Hottman or Jay Hottman, I usually
Yeah.
post about projects that I'm working on, that kind of
Awesome.
thing. So that's
Awesome.
what I got.
So who all is going to be in the music video if you're allowed? I don't know if you're allowed to say or not.
I don't know if I can say everything, but
Okay.
there's going to be some surprises. That's all I
Okay.
can really say right now.
Okay. I,
And
I
some blood. So
Awesome.
it's so
I always watch end credits. I like watching end credits because sometimes you get the specific, end credits special, from the movie
yeah.
that's not in the movie. And there was with Roseblood, so I was glad I did watch it.
Oh,
And I did see your name there for the song, and obviously listened to the song, and I really enjoyed the song. I thought it was great. So I definitely look forward to seeing this music video as well. And I wish you all the best of luck in your acting career, music career. I mean, you have a promising career. I can definitely see, you doing big things, and I'm looking forward to following your career and seeing how well it goes for you.
well, thank you so much. And
Of
thanks for
course.
having me and
Absolutely.
chatting about Roseblood. This was great.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And you have a great rest of your night.
Yes, you
All right.
too.
Thank
Talk to you
you.
later.
Bye.
Bye.